Well, we're back, folks. Hello. Welcome again to the ongoing G1 Climax 32 coverage right here, available to you, offered up by me, Mr. Warren Hayes, here on the Mr. Warren Hayes distribution network, which is comprised of youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, and also of your favorite podcast application, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, so on and so forth. Thank you very much for joining me once again today for the ongoing coverage of the G1. Appreciate it a great deal. Well, you are great dears, but I appreciate it a great deal. How about that for saving face? But look, before we go any forward, per usual, I just want to remind you all, I want to say thank you first and foremost, but I want to remind you all to show some support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. It's very, very easy. If you're on youtube.com right now, /Mr. Warren Hayes, of course, like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. That way, here's the thing, you're not going to miss a single solitary recap of the G1 that I'm going to be performing. So I think that's something you want to do. And if you are listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thank you very much. Look, 5-star reviews on Apple, those are fantastic. They help out tremendously. So do 5-star ratings on Spotify as well. So check those out. Whatever you can do to show some love, I'm more than welcome. I more than welcome them. And look, and on top of that, if you're on YouTube, drop some comments. Let's chat about the G1. What do you think so far? What are your matches of the tournament so far? I'm going to start compiling those. I think on the next update, I'm going to be compiling, so far best matches of the tournament, maybe a top 5 or something. Because there's been some very, very, very good matches on a somewhat irregular tournament, but not as irregular as last year's was. I think 2022 is this year. But I think 2021, the G1 last year, I think it was solid throughout, but nothing to really, throw you off your chair. Whereas this year you do have these excellent matches happening. But there's just enough not great stuff to make it to not still keep us from feeling like every night of the G1 is a must watch, because it still isn't. There's some things you have to go. Yeah, there's some matches I think you should watch, but I don't think there's been like a top to bottom. I don't think every night has been a top to bottom must watch. I think like night 1 was a particularly good introduction, to the G1, a good way in. I think night 2 as well. 2 was fantastic. We're not even going to mention, that one night that should not be mentioned anymore. We've stricken it from memory, and we're going to get right into talking about nights 5 and 6. Per usual, I combined 2 nights of G1 action into one recap here. So let's start by talking about night 5, which happened on July 24th over at the Otis City Gymnasium. Evening started off with El Phantasmo defeating Yujiro Takahashi. I'm a little less mad at Yujiro today as I was in my last recap, but I'm still so entirely, completely done with him. And this match sort of proved it as well. Look, the match starts off with Yujiro. See, these are Bullet Club guys, right? At least you have House of Torture sub-faction, right, with mainstay Bullet Club, right? So El Phantasmo, Yujiro tries to sell off Peter to ELP, saying if you do the job for me, if you lay down and give me the 2 points, I'll give you, you can have a night with Peter, kind of thing. And ELP's like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, okay, I'll do it. He seems to accept. He lies down, but instead he suckers Yujiro into a pin attempt. Yujiro's in the Tree of Woe, eats 2 basement drop kicks. Another beautiful SIE moonsault by El Phantasmo. The CR2 is blocked with a bite by Yujiro. He hits Pimp Juice on the floor, And look, ELP barely makes it back in time. And, I think this is the kind of stuff that irritates people when it comes to El Phantasmo, because he adds on so much, spectacle to him trying to reach the ring. And people are like, he's hamming it up too much, but I enjoy it. I think he has a lot of flair. He does things with a lot of flair. Yujiro runs the ropes, eats a drop kick. Another super kick by El Phantasmo is blocked and reversed into a slop drop. Yujiro then hits the Fisherman's Buster. Brain Buster by El Phantasmo, a Lager Bomb, a UFO. Yujiro hits an accidental low blow, kicking out of a pin attempt, and then hits the Olympic Slam. Show of the House of Torture, of course, arrives, slides the wrench into Yujiro, but El Phantasmo purple nurples Show. This distracts the ref, and then he does a little Eddie Guerrero trickery with the wrench. The ref argues with Yujiro, who has the wrench in his hands, and while the ref has his back turned, just goes for a straight right punch directly into Yujiro's dick. Thunder Kiss 86 for the win. El Phantasmo scores his first 2 points of the tournament here, and he leaves with Peter, who is very much inclined to walk away with him, leaving Yujiro completely high and dry. Well, Yujiro he had Show. Can you imagine? We're in the year 2022, and this guy's running a pimp gimmick. In the year of our Lord, 2022. I thought this was a better showing by Yujiro, and this match had a lot of flair because of ELP. ELP is a showman. He has a lot of charisma. But, a slow match, and Yujiro drags this shit down. It's just as simple as that. So, fine. It's all right. Don't get me wrong. But you can entirely skip over this one, and you will enjoy the G1 nonetheless. SANADA defeated Taichi in a very strong match. There's a lot of pec flexing by both guys to start this one off. And we get an abdominal stretch by Taichi, basement dropkick by SANADA, and a pescado. We go in and out of pin attempts. That ends with an axe bomber by Taichi, a backdrop driver as well. Taichi goes for a second rope choke slam, but SANADA reverses out of it and rolls right up to his feet, hits the TKO, goes for the skull end, is able to lay it in proper, then goes for the moonsault, but Taichi raises his knees up. Axe bomber Gamangiri to the orbital bone of SANADA, which of course is his Achilles heel, having come back from that injury. They do some more back and forth. SANADA wins with an O'Connor roll. And after the match, SANADA's eye was a little puffy, was a little, hope everything was okay. But his eye did his eye did puff up a little bit. Looked like he got punched right into it, or whatever. Hopefully the fracture isn't making its way back. So good, honestly, strong match between the two. But two guys who strong workers, but there's always this implement in SANADA matches where you're like, well, where's the magic? Where's the thing? Where's the emotional investment? And I've talked about it multiple times. I get it that SANADA is the cold skull, right? He's the Iceman. He's not supposed to show emotion, but at some point, Jesus, a strong match. Don't get me wrong. This was a good match. I think. Yeah, this was a good match. What was not a good match was Jeff Cobb versus Bad Luck Fale. Look, this was just fine for what it was, and that's about it. You've got a lumbering Bad Luck Fale just, going around the ring with Cobb being booked like an underdog somehow in this match, like working from beneath. Can he lift this big? Of course he can. Can he overcome bad luck? Of course he. Jesus, if anything, Jeff Cobb should have been placed here in a position. This is how I would have booked it, right? But of course, this is what I was expecting, and it was the complete opposite, and I don't understand. Because I get Fale has tenure. He's an older guy with the company, and I know he works a lot. He works a lot behind the scenes, trains. That's fine, and I'm sure on that level he's invaluable. In the ring, I talked about it on the last recap that we did. He doesn't have anything to offer us anymore. His presence in the ring now is more of a hindrance than anything else. It helps reduce the amount of enjoyment you can get out of a match. This is not the bad luck Fale of 10 years ago. Absolutely not. So the way I thought this was going to go was for a young, powerful beast of a man like Jeff Cobb, coming into this match here. I thought that he was going to maybe not run through Fale, but give Fale more of a run for his money, where Fale feels like he has to maybe work a little from under to squeeze out a win, which he wouldn't be able to do, and sort of certifying Jeff Cobb as, well, look, now we're moving on to this next generation of strong, athletic hosses that maybe Fale once was, but Jeff Cobb and maybe even a guy like Jonah are maybe moving on to these guys, because that's what they are right now. They are the big guys. They are the hosses now. And if anything, it's a Fale times 2, because Jeff Cobb can do shit that Fale was never able to do. I don't know. This was a very strange match. One of the shortest of the tournament so far, but nonetheless. Anyway, he suplexes Bad Luck Fale and hits the Tour of the Islands for the win. Impressive stuff, nonetheless. But that's the thing that's Jeff Cobb's thing. Feats of strength. He's incredibly strong. That's his thing. I really this literally could have been a sort of passing of the torch kind of thing. It's sort of Jeff Cobb moving. Jeff Cobb goes toe to toe with Kazuchika Okada. I don't know. Go toe to toe with Kazuchika Okada. Struggles against Bad Luck Fale. Doesn't make much sense to me. Then we had a great main event. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Tetsuya Naito. Naito goes rudo on Hiroshi Tanahashi early on, tugging at the hair, so on and so forth. Tana tries to do a skin the cat, but Naito drop kicks him back to the floor. Naito then launches him into the barricade, cracks his neck over his knee, then gets the leg half Nelson outside on the floor, then gets Tanahashi back into the ring to avoid the double countout, but also locks the leg half Nelson again. He perches Tanahashi on the second turnbuckle and hits a neck breaker. Tanahashi with a dragon screw. Tanahashi goes up on the ropes and does everyone's sort of expecting him to do to do a senton or whatever, but no, he does a stomp right on Naito's knee. So Tanahashi not afraid to go a little rudo himself. Naito goes for the hits, Combinación Cabron, Esperanza, Gloria, Puma Blanca on top of that. He's working Tanahashi's arm. He goes for an avalanche run, but Tanahashi holds on to the ropes and rolls into a cover. Well, not holds on to the ropes. He holds on to Naito and rolls into the cover. Apologies. Forearm exchange between them both. has both of the guys smiling at each other. 3 twist and shouts by Tanahashi. Count them. 3 consecutive twist and shouts. Sling blades, aces high fly flow, but Naito moves out of the way for the high fly flow. Hits Valencia, goes for Destino, but no, it's blocked inside cradle by Hiroshi Tanahashi for the win. Look, when you have 2 of the best in the world in the ring going at it, this is exactly what you get, right? You get a great match, and this was a great main event for night 5. And one that had very, very serious repercussions for whoever decided to lose. Or not they decided, but whoever ended up losing. Who decides to lose? That's not, well, you know. Because now Naito's in the doghouse in Block C. He's 0-2. We'll talk about the standings a little later, but this was a bit of a must-win for him. For both guys, actually. Tanahashi's 1-1, but Naito is doghouse in this one. I really enjoyed the match. Another in a great series between both of these guys. And no one should really be surprised. Why would you be surprised at the idea of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tetsuya Naito putting on a great match? That was night 5. Next, we're moving on to night 6. We're in Korakuen Hall now on July 26th. Starts off with Chase Owens taking on the not the debuting, but Great Okan in his first G1 match, is what I'm trying to say. And Chase Owens beats him. And I would consider an upset. Owens throws powder at Great Okan's face from the get-go as Great Okan removes his mask. It's not really a mask though. His kerchief, his face kerchief. There's a Northern Lights suplex by Chase Owens. He chokes Great Okan against the ropes. Great Okan's offense, right up until this point, has been ineffective until he starts landing some Mongolian chops and a basement drop kick. Get a gut buster by Chase Owens, who tries to cover Great Okan with the feet on the ropes, kind of like how we defeated him in Chicago, but the ref saw it this time. C-Trigger is blocked into the Sheep Killer by Great Okan and a backbreaker. DDD Power Slam by Great Okan. And Owens avoids an eliminator, yanks Great Okan across the rope. C-Trigger, package pile driver. And I'm like, what? Okay. Surprise win. Like, I'll call it an upset. I'll definitely call it an upset. I guess they're establishing the fact that Chase Owens, the G1 in Korakuen Hall, is lucky for him because that's where he defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi last year. That was his sole win of the G1 31, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, this is a surprise win out of nowhere. But you know, this is Great Okan. This is only his first match, so he's not toast yet. He's not toast yet. Still surprising. Fun little affair. Evil had his first G1 Climax 32 match, taking on KENTA. This match, quote unquote, can absolutely hit the bricks. And this had everything in this match was designed to annoy me. And to just get my blood pumping again. Not as bad as night 3 though. This night 3 was a collective effort by all. At least here on night 6, we're going to be saved later on. There has been hard work, but this was this was so annoying and terrible. Like, this is the penultimate Evil match that people hate. And Kenta was going right along with it, right? Because what all it is interference, distractions, and comedy spots. And I should have expected this when the match started with Kenta bringing out a copy of his new memoir and handing it to Evil, and then they pelted each other with it. And I'm like, okay, this is what what was this? All this to set up, more Bullet Club storytelling? Is this it? Because these are two Bullet Club members, but from different factions. Was this all to set up? Like, I can't. And even after the match, they were fist bumping. They're like, okay, fair. We all did our sneaky, underhanded tactics, but there was no match here. There was nothing composed with in-ring storytelling. There was nothing. And we have the typical stuff. Dick Togo coming in while the ref is distracted to hit a magic killer with Evil. You have Sho turning off the lights. Kenta and Evil are swinging chairs at each other. As Evil does his baseball thing. And we get a count-out win for Evil because Togo is under the ring holding on to Kenta's legs, keeping him from jumping back into the ring before the 20 count. It's bullshit. I hated it. This is exactly the kind of Bullet Club / House of Torture match that I loathe. I can't stand it because this is not why I watch. This is not why I watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. If I want these kinds of ridiculous nonsense shenanigans, there's another company that does it 7 hours a week. I can tune in and tune in on a Monday night, watch two grown men and a woman talk about testicle size for about 7 minutes. There you go. I can do that. But that's not what I want. This is not what I want when I'm watching New Japan. Especially during the G1. Lance Archer defeated Tom Lawlor, also debuting in the G1, his first G1 match, period. Tom Lawlor. This was okay. Again, an okay match. The story here was that Lawlor was, overpowered, basically. Lance Archer hits a pounce, release suplex, and Lawlor tries his best to cut him down, take out the knee, standing choke, hammer handle elbows. But Archer is he's just too strong and he's shoving him around. Black hole slam. Lawlor tries to go over and over again to a rear naked choke. But Archer's too big, too strong. You get the blackout. 2 points for Archer. Again, this is a very, very weird booking decision. I know Block A, because this was Block A. Block A is the Haas block. This is where you have Lance Archer and Fale and Jonah and Jeff Cobb. I get it. But is a guy like Tom Lawlor really like that overcome by Lance Archer? Again, a little strange. I'm okay with Lance Archer defeating Tom Lawlor. There's a certain degree of this that makes sense. This is not Archer's first G1. It's not his first stint in Japan either. Maybe Lawlor, you could go down the path that Lawlor maybe wasn't quite ready. Wasn't it, first match in is But I thought Lawlor looked a bit like a dunce in this match, especially when he keeps going over and over again for the rear naked choke, when we know damn well that Tom Lawlor is a very, very, very capable, competent MMA fighter. And commentary puts it over at the same time. And yet, like 3-4 times in a row. He goes for the rear naked choke because Archer's shoving him off. I'm like, that's all he's got? That can't be all he has. I thought the design of this match was extremely strange and, did not present Tom Lawlor in his best, at his best at all. There you go. Didn't introduce the Japanese crowd to Tom Lawlor at his best. Kind of disappointing, actually. Finally, we get the main event, which was Block D. Dave Finlay and Juice Robinson went at it in a very, very good main event. And that is something that I was not expecting to tell you. Watching, when I was looking over this card, and I was like, Finlay and Juice, maybe the story between the two will give some fuel to this. And it did. And boy, did it ever. This match ruled. It actually ruled. I think this is probably the most unassuming main event that we have throughout the entire G1. And it ruled. Two guys who have a long history together, friends, came up together, tag team partners, now on separate paths, but like completely different paths. They have some hard feelings against each other, some grudges. And it culminates in a fantastic in-ring story of violence and grit. This is what it was. It was just like both guys sucking it in to win the 2 points, but there's also pride in this. Robinson comes to the ring still claiming he's the U.S. champion, the IWGP U.S. champion. And early on in the match, he works Finlay's shoulder a big time. Of course, Dave Finlay's shoulder was legitimately injured. It's been reconstructed surgically. And boy, does he work it over. On the floor, in the ring, Finlay eventually tries to fight back with a neck breaker or running uppercut, but Robinson is right back on the shoulder. Goes for a Fujiwara armbar. Robinson takes it to the floor again for even more damage. He peels off the ringside mat to hit a pile driver, but Finlay back body drops him on the exposed floor. Finlay, then this is the signal for Finlay's comeback. Flinging Robinson into the barricades now. Irish curse backbreaker and a blindsided lariat as well. Finlay starts on his end working Robinson's hand because the Juice's punches are a big deal, especially his left hand. So guess what he goes after? Finlay gets tossed into an exposed turnbuckle, eats a juice box and a superplex. Juice hits a punch, pulp friction, but Finlay kicks out of the pin attempt. We get a pair of stunners then by Finlay, and we're back on the floor, who hits a pescado, or actually goes for a pescado, but it is countered by a straight right punch straight to the jaw by Juice Robinson in a great looking spot. And Robinson picks up Finlay and lands the pile driver on the exposed floor, to the dismay of the crowd. There is a loud audible by the audience here. I am so glad the pile driver is making a comeback as a devastating move. Everyone is doing it. Everyone is pulling out pile drivers as big time destructive move. As a, and I'm here for it. I'm here for that comeback. He gets Finlay back into the ring, left-handed God, goes for the rock slide, but no, Finlay lands on his feet. We get a ref bump. Juice tries to use the U.S. title belt on Finlay, who instead ducks and delivers a shillelagh shot to Juice Robinson. We're getting the Donnybrook before the SummerSlam happens, and lands the Trash Panda for the win. Again, something I was not expecting. 2 surprise victories in one night of the G1. I was convinced that Juice was going to go forward because clearly they're angling stuff up for him. They're getting him ready for his last night, right? I think on the last night of block competition, isn't Juice fighting Will Ospreay? So that's meaningful to something, and he has this thing with Will Ospreay right now in regards to the IWGP title, a US title, where Will Ospreay is actually the champ but doesn't have the belt, and Juice had the belt, keeps calling himself the US champions. I'm like, I thought this is where we're going. It's a loss, it's a bit of a wrinkle, but then on top of that, after the match, Dave Finlay claims the US title for himself. Or the prop, not the actual championship, but the prop, telling Will Ospreay, look, I just beat Robinson, who says he has a claim on it. Well, then I won the claim on the US title. So if you want it back, you have to come after me now. I'm like, cool. Very interesting little wrinkle here, as I thought Juice was going to have more of a runaway tournament than this. I was convinced he was going to walk out of here being the first guy of Block D with 4 points, but no, he is absolutely not. I thought this main event, I thought it was great. I thought it ruled. Two guys who just beat the tar out of each other. It's fantastic stuff from top to bottom. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. Worked for me. Right down my alley. I would say it's one of the best matches of the tournament so far. I would highly suggest you go check it out. Just great wrestling, great in-ring storytelling. Top to bottom. These guys delivered. These guys were in a main event, and they're not used to doing main events, and they're in Karukin Hall. So they went for it, and it delivered. 2 points for Dave Finlay. Let's talk about the standings. If you're watching on YouTube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes right now, you can see the current standings. A block is still Kazuchika Okada territory, where he reigns supreme at 4 points. Toru Yano at 2, Fale at 2, Lance Archer at 2, Jeff Cobb at 2, Tom Lawlor and Jonah bringing up the rear at 0. Now, of course, what we have to consider here is that Okada is, of course, the only guy who is 2-0. Not everyone in Block A has had their 2 matches so far. Lawlor and Jonah are the only 2 guys who have had 1 match apiece. Everyone else is 1-0. So as it stands right now, it's still very much open. But I honestly do not see anyone else but Kazuchika Okada just running through the block here. Even if he were to lose, I talked about it last time. Even if he were to lose 1 match, which is possible, I thought if there was a chance for him to lose a match, I would have thought it would have been against Yano, but he won. I was figuring that maybe he would lose 1 match, tie with Jeff Cobb at the end, because I also think Jeff Cobb is going to run through the competition here. There's no one on this outside maybe of Lance Archer. There's no one. There's all of the other guys are not in Jeff Cobb's lane. So it is. It's easy. It's conceivable for Jeff Cobb to win every other match in the tournament, but Kazuchika Okada has the tiebreaker with him over him. So, not convinced yet. As far as B block goes, Jay White still at the top here. We have 4 guys. With tied at 2, Taichi, Tamatanga, Chase Owens, and SANADA. Great-O-Khan and Tomohiro Ishii bringing up the rear on this one. Again, should be noted that, the only person in Block B, the only two people in Block B who only have one match under their belts are Tama Tonga and Great-O-Khan. Great-O-Khan is currently 0-1. Tonga is 1-0. Jay White won both. Everyone else is tied, and Tomohiro Ishii lost both of his matches. I don't think he's going to be much of a factor moving forward in the tournament, outside of maybe spoiling it for other dudes. But but we'll see. Block C now, we still have Zack Sabre Jr. up top at 4 points. Aaron Henare, Hiroki Goto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Evil all tied at 2 points. And the doghouse, Kenta and Tetsuya Naito are sharing a spot. They're both at 0. Not only at 0, they're 0-2. Two guys where you could have been like, all right, these are contenders. These guys are going to be up there in the conversation. No. Hiroki Goto and Evil are the only two people in the block that only have one match apiece. They both won. So they are both 1-0. Henare, Tanahashi are 1-1. Zack Sabre Jr., of course, is 2-0. C block is going to be interesting to see what happened. Because, okay, so the Tetsuya Naito loss, a bit out of nowhere, but you know what? As a Naito fan, I should not be surprised that Naito is in a position where he's sort of fighting from beneath and has to claw his way back up and to try and get a victory here. This is classic Gedo booking of Tetsuya Naito, right? No big shocks here. I'd have to think he can mount a comeback, because technically speaking, Tanahashi would probably be the biggest competition he has here, but he lost to Goto. Like, anything could happen at this point. He could mount a comeback. And the thing that makes me believe that he will mount a comeback is that on the last night of block action, on August 16th, he is fighting Zack Sabre Jr. I think that's a bit of a tell that this might come down to the wire in regards to this block here, where maybe Zack will will maybe have one loss heading into the final night of action, but then lose a second one to Naito. Naito wins all of his other block matches, so comes in with his 2 losses, defeats Zack Sabre Jr. He and Jr. tie, but Naito will hold the tiebreaker. There you go. I don't know why I blanked out on that. But yeah, there you go. So interesting. It's something to keep an eye on. I'm going to keep a close eye on these blocks moving forward. Like I said, this is the thing, right? We're still adapting to this new way of going forward with the blocks, right? But as we get further into the tournament, we're not just going to have 4 block matches a night. We're going to get entire nights just full of block matches. So things are going to start ramping up fairly soon. So as far as Block D goes, Block D all over the place right now. We've got 6 guys with 2 points. Will Ospreay, Juice Robinson, Shingo Takagi, Yujiro Takahashi, bam, El Phantasmo, and David Finlay. With poor Yoshihashi being the only dude without any points. As it stands right now, only Will Ospreay and the aforementioned Yoshihashi have only one match to their name in the G1 so far. Takagi, Robinson, Phantasmo, Takahashi, as in Yujiro, as in the Tokyo Pimp, are all at 2 points, but are also all at 1-1. So interesting records moving forward. On the last night of action, there are 2 D-block matches. There are 2 D-block matches on the card. Shingo versus El Phantasmo and Will Ospreay versus Juice Robinson. Now, we posited from the get-go that Will Ospreay and Juice Robinson would probably be a very critical, important match for D Block because of the pre-existing history that exists between the two and the current. Well, not necessarily the pre-existing history. What I meant was the current story being told around the IWGP United States Championship. Now they went through Dave Finlay into the mix. I don't know if that's an extra wrinkle. I don't know if it's just like a one night thing or if it, but we've got Will, we've got Juice on the final night of block action, and we've got Shingo and El Phantasmo. So I would assume that as we get into that final night, we're going to get a little more. Those will probably be the 4 guys amongst which all of this is going to, all of the results of D Block are going to hang on, right? Because Yujiro's not going to be a factor. When's Yujiro's last match? But Yujiro is not going to be a factor. He finishes on night 16 against Shingo. That's his last block match. So Yujiro is this, he's a sack of shit, and he's going to be dumped aside as the sack of shit he is 2 nights before the end. Hit the bricks. Yoshihashi has one last match on night 17, but on night 16, he's facing Will. I would assume that night 16 will be the nail in the coffin of Yoshihashi's tournament, and night 17 will be an academic type of match. He's facing Dave Finlay, who I don't think is going to be that much of a factor either, but who knows? D Block is completely up in the air. I'm just basing myself on the schedule, on the matches that are scheduled for the last night of the tournament, night 18. D Block is Shingo and El Phantasmo. And then we also have Will versus Rock Hard Juice Robinson. I think these guys are going to be factors. I think right now, D Block is going to be kind of like, what was it, B Block last year? Where to the very end, there were like 4 or 5 guys like within reach of each other. And there was like a 4-way tie to the very, very end. I think that's what D Block is going to be this year. It's going to be the block that's all over the place. D Block, I think Zack Sabre Jr. is going to have a good tournament, and I think he's going to lose a match. Because don't forget, he's fighting Naito on night 18. So just my gut feeling at this point, we've got Zack Sabre Jr., who is going to lose one match heading into night 18. Naito is going to win every one of his matches. He's going to win every other match, including defeating Zack Sabre Jr. on night 18, which are going to tie them for points. and Naito's going to move forward. That would be my guess. But you never know, because they can do all sorts of goddamn fuckery with evil that I couldn't care less about and just piss me off. It's interesting to note, though, that we do have Tama Tonga versus Jay White on night 18, which makes me wonder if Tama Tonga could not act as a spoiler for someone here. It's interesting. Interesting. The thing that makes it difficult to really go out and say block A winner is in block B winner and block C and block D, that makes it still a little difficult, despite the fact that I do have my predictions and I've already put them out there. The thing that makes it different is that the semifinals between the blocks, we don't know. We're assuming it's block A winner versus block B winner and block C winner versus block D winner. That's an assumption, but we don't know because it's still to be determined, right? Let me just go make sure here, because the last time I checked, that's what it was. Match lineup for August 17. Yeah, we don't know which block winner is facing which block winner on August 17. So your guess is going to be good as mine is this at that point. For night 19 on August 17. So again, you can tell right now, as it stands, Gedo doesn't want, it still has a whole bunch of options open. I think it's still very difficult to nail any scenarios down. I think there are people whose tournaments are through. I think Jonah's tournament is through. I think Tomohiro Ishii's tournament is done as well. And, if I were a betting man, I would not dismiss Tetsuya Naito. I think he's going to have a comeback run. That's my guess. So what do we have coming up here over the next 2 nights, leading into my next recap, which is going to be after night 8. Well, first of all, night 7, July 27, which is going to happen in just a few hours as I'm recording this. It's going to be taking place at the at Kirkin Hall. Will Ospreay versus Yujiro Takahashi. For D block action, we're going to have Toru Yano versus Bad Luck Fale for A block. C block is going to be represented by Hiroki Goto versus Aaron Hanare. And to cap it all off, B block, having Tomohiro Ishii versus Tama Tonga. I am not stoked for this for this card. I am not stoked for it. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Tama Tonga and Ishii. If anything, I would assume Ishii's going to do the job here and make Tama Tonga look like $1 million. I'm interested in Goto versus Hanare, if only based off of the excellent performance of Aaron Hanare so far in this tournament, who is not just lazing around. And he's coming in this tournament with something to prove, and I dig it. And he's been very strong so far. Couldn't care less about Yano versus Fale. That's gonna be shit. And God bless Will Ospreay if he can get anything out of the sack of shit. We'll see what we'll talk about this one in a couple of days. Then we're going to move on to night 8 on July 30th from the Aichi Prefectural Gymnasium. Dave Finlay versus Shingo Takagi for the D block. A block is going to be Tom Lawlor versus Jonah. B block, SANADA versus the Great Okan. And it will be wrapped up by a match that everyone should get excited for. Zack Saber Jr. versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the C block. That's the reason why you tune in. That's why you bought your ticket for that show. Should be a lot of fun. I'm already looking forward to it. I'm already looking forward coming back to sit right here and talk about night 7 and 8 on July 30th with you good folks. But in the meantime, we're going to end it right here. Thank you very much for watching this recap. You can go and catch up on my other recaps for nights 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are all available either as a podcast or on video on demand on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. If you haven't already, give us some love, a like, a subscription, all that good stuff works out. Leave some comments, send me some emails. I don't know, maybe not emails, DMs. How about that? See you next time.